discussion, or do you want discussion on specific things and then draw up an ordinance?
Yeah, so do you really want the hearing at the next meeting on the ordinance, or do you want us to bring an ordinance to
Draft an
discuss
ordinance.
first and then set it?
And then we chop it apart and then we discuss
You
it.
can do it either way.
No, I suggest that's how it's done.
Okay, just make it an agenda item.
Making an agenda item with a proposed ordinance.
But we got a motion here for
A
public
hearing.
hearing.
Can I withdraw my motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And change it to,
it's toothpaste out of the
You wanna
tube.
change it?
change my motion to make an agenda item discussing
Parameters.
Code of Ordinances, Chapter 55, Animal Protection and Control.
You want to take out the public hearing words, so the public
Yeah,
is
well, the
encouraged to
public
show up?
hearing will come later.
Oh, they'll show us.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. We can move on from the poultry item.
Okay, I mean, so the council made the decision that she can't have, she's already been notified, and last Friday was the deadline.
16.
Yeah, so are you gonna give her, is it immediately, or are you gonna give her a little time?
Well, I think you give her some latitude to get rid of the birds. I don't think we need to, we're dealing with it, she's cooperating, we're dealing with it. And,
That's Luke's job.
Yeah,
yeah,
Luke handle it.
yep.
Okay. All right.
did you wanna say anything? 'Cause
No, I couldn't hear you very well, sorry. I was just gonna get a little closer.
trying.
I know, he's getting, I'm sorry.
One of the many jobs Dave does.
He doesn't like sitting for a long time.
Trying.
Okay, moving on to water tower maintenance contracts. Attached are maintenance contracts for the city's 2 water towers located at 6th Avenue Southwest and 200th Street and on 3rd Avenue Southeast. Proposals for the contracts were received from Viking Painting LLC, Viking, and McGuire Inc., McGuire. The lowest proposal received were from Viking. The city currently has a maintenance contract on the oldest water tower, but not on the newest one. The current contract is with McGuire. They have done a good job, but Viking provided the lowest proposals on both towers. References for Viking were contacted and all provided positive feedback. Both McGuire's and Viking's contract are annual agreements that automatically renew each July. If the Viking contracts are approved, the city will give McGuire notice that we will not be renewing our current contract. Recommendation is that Administration and the Public Utilities Committee is recommending approval of the maintenance contracts on the 2 city water towers with Viking. Fiscal year 2023 to 2024 costs under the Viking contracts are $5,000 for the newer water tower and $26,750 for the older water tower.
I have a question, if we could find out how much extra it would cost to paint them with some kind of ice cream logo or some kind of a color. I mean, I think as long as you're going to paint these periodically, you should make it some kind of a neat thing for the city. Just if it isn't an exorbitant extra cost. Maybe this is the time for that conversation, I don't know.
I was curious on the amount for 2029 going from 34,000 to 111,000 in 2030.
Yeah, so, that's because as we get later into the contract, there's more involved with it, so I think there's a repaint of inside and then also the outside, maybe Scott can speak to that, but it's, in the beginning years, there's not as much that's needed, and then there's more in the later years, so that's why it's.
So there's really no painting in the earlier years and painting comes later.
Right, I know Rich said probably just like a little touch up this summer and then.
That's the outside paint, that's the outside thing. And then they have the inside maintenance, it's all part of it, and I think it's just the age of the towers that is built in an increase in the contract.
But that's historically been consistent, right? I mean, at the beginning versus at the end of the contract, I guess.
I believe the McGuire one was a little less at the beginning. They did offer us the option of having it a flat amount for the full 10 years. but it just seemed to make more sense to have it less in the early years and more in the later years.
I would make a motion to approve the maintenance contracts for the two city water towers with Viking Painting LLC, subject to the successful termination of the current contract.
As it pertains to the old tower only, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Second his motion.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry. Sorry, Steve. Motion carried. Moving on to discussion items. Jason?
My notes. Okay, just a couple things. The alley project, he continues to pay sections. When I talked to Cody yesterday, he's anticipating this block being done by Friday. So he's gonna start to move across to the north alley. Hopefully that will go smoother.
Then how long after that before traffic's allowed back in there?
Probably 14 days.
Yeah, they will test you typically test at a week. You can do it as quickly as 4. They've already been driving on it, so.
But not garbage trucks
No.
and stuff like that, so they probably.
You also want to make sure that water flows away from the occupants of the alley.
Thanks for reminding me about something.
Tomorrow, there is a plywood 1B pre-construction meeting here. So that's with the contractor, so we'll find out more details about their plans tomorrow for that. And then the other project going on, if you haven't seen it, by the USDA back in behind there is our storm sewer project. So there's pipe, if you drive down 12th, you'll see pipe sitting around, but back behind that building, all those, I think there's 3 trees that are left. That's been cleared out, and so they should be starting to lay pipe in pretty quickly. So those were updates I had.
Do you have any updates on the Erdmanville area? I drive by there a lot, so I see a lot of activity, a lot of things being done.
I can't think of the dates, Mark, but there, I mean, yes, there was it's still theirs.
Yeah, right.
So first deadline, no second deadline.
Yeah, so there was a deadline for the people to be out.
July 1.
Was it July 1?
I believe so, and then August 1.
Yeah, I mean, so there's that, and then there's, then they'll close on it, LBIC, once that's done. Phase 1 environmental will be done, and then it's demolition. So
I think
it's not the prettiest looking thing right now, but.
And we had a quick hearing, I think I agreed on that one.
That one will be legal.
Jacob?
Not a whole lot, just, we're finishing up the fiscal year here, so it ends, June 30th, so we have those transfers today, we'll have more transfers as I mentioned, next month, and then we'll start out the new fiscal year.
Good. Council mayor discussion. Steve, do you have anything?
No, not yet.
Mark?
A couple of things. I'd just like to ask people to kind of be conscious of the people that are driving on the trail on that 195th Street, the south of the airport. When we're on our Tuesday night bike rides, I mean, most of their cars on the trail, and that's why we have so many rocks there. And then when we came back and they saw us, then they were on the other side, but they weren't fast enough. They still coated with dust. Just asking for some courtesy on that. And then I did want to mention, I probably should have just mentioned to the streets, there's standing water all the time on 2nd Street in front of Bike Central, and when it was redone, they thought that would be cured, but it's not. So there's really an issue there with it. After you have a rain, it's going to be there for however many days it takes to get rid of it. That's all.
Good. I don't have much of anything other than to encourage, people who feel passionately about the chicken issue to reach out to their council people. Just to weigh in, because, I got very little feedback. I had about maybe a half a dozen people reach out to me, which was kind of surprising. And in fact, I was doing my informal poll by asking people, and a lot of people just didn't seem to care. So, anyway, that was my informal. So, anyway, I would like to hear some feedback there. So, Clark?
Yeah, I welcome feedback also. I probably had a half a dozen to 8 phone calls, all of which I returned. I always start those conversations with the understanding that we may agree to disagree. That's all there is to it. Because it's like we've witnessed here today, you have pros and you have cons. You have pluses and you have minuses. So, good points on both sides. Jason, how do we put some streets on our resurfacing radar? I'm thinking of Highway 3 coming into town around the first curve, and then you head straight and it turns into 6th, or off of Highway 3 in front of the clinic parking there, and then Floyd Valley Apartments, 6th headed up. It's getting pretty rough, and it's a pretty heavily traveled street. That one I would like to get on our radar. That one actually has a lot more potholes and low spots that I think it needs attention. The second one is, and I mentioned this one a couple weeks ago, a month ago, 4th Avenue, turning at that gas station there on 4th, headed past the courthouse. There's a 2-block, tells the courthouse, because after that it's redone, but there's about a 2-block section in there that 4th Avenue is really in pretty bad shape. And then the third one that I'd like to put on the radar is a very heavily traveled, and it's at Foster Park, at the corner of the 600 block of Foster Park headed east, because people use 6th there as a cut through and dog legs by Mike Engler and then heads east on Good Road. But that 4-section block in there is really pretty bad, and I think they should be pegged for resurfacing those 3 sections. So it just, however it gets on the radar, or if somebody looks at it and says, it's not bad enough, or whatever, I'd just like to look at it. That's all I got, thank you.
Brian?
Nothing.
Mike?
I was thinking since our last meeting about Clark's comments about how important it's going to be looking forward for some good people coming to join us on the council. And I had set a goal to make a decision about whether I'm going to gather some signatures for another term for the at-large position, and I'm not going to do that. And so we want to make sure folks have sufficient time to give it some thought, and so anybody in the community can put their hat in the ring for this particular position, like Clark's. And so I encourage people to do that.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next item is closed session for performance review. Anyone make a motion?
Motion to enter closed session per Iowa Code Section 21.5I to elevate or evaluate the professional competency of an individual city administrator whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session.
Second. A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Donlin?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Bruns?
Yes.
Goodchild?
Yep.
Sturgeon?
Yes.
Motion carried.